July 23rd, 1943. The USS Tinosa, 300 miles south of Truk, 900 feet beneath the scorching Pacific sun. Commander Lawson Daspit squints through the periscope at a sight that makes his heart race, the Tonan Maru, No. 3. 10,000 tons of Japanese tanker, alone, unescorted, wallowing fat and slow across his crosshairs. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. Daspit's hands are steady. He's been hunting submarines for months. This is the target every commander dreams about, a high-value tanker carrying fuel that Japan's war machine desperately needs. And it's defenseless. He maneuvers the Tinosa into perfect position. 1,500 yards. The torpedo data computer feeds solutions to the torpedo rooms. The math is flawless. The setup is textbook. Fire 1. The torpedo leaps from its tube, propeller spinning, gyroscope, locked on target. Through the periscope, Daspit watches the wake streak toward the tanker's hull. Impact. The sound of metal striking metal echoes through the Tinosa's hull. But no explosion. The tanker steams on, oblivious. Fire 2. Another torpedo. Another solid hit. Another metallic clang. No detonation. The Japanese crew hasn't even noticed they're under attack. Daspit's jaw tightens. He orders another shot, and another, and another. Over the next 7 hours, the Tinosa fires 15 torpedoes at the Tonan Maru. 15 perfectly aimed shots. 11 strike the tanker's hull. 11 times, American submariners hear that sickening sound of impact without explosion. Only 2 torpedoes detonate. The tanker, damaged but still afloat, limps away into a rain squall and escapes. When the Tinosa returns to Pearl Harbor days later, Commander Daspit is, in the words of his superior officer, almost speechless with rage. He has 1 torpedo remaining. He brings it back for examination. The torpedo shop at Pearl Harbor tears it apart. Every component is perfect. There is nothing wrong with the weapon, except that it doesn't work. This is the story of how American submariners discovered their torpedoes were defective, how they fixed them, and how, once they had reliable weapons, they developed a firing technique so effective it destroyed 60% of Japan's merchant fleet and strangled an empire. The technique was called firing ahead. It required nerves of steel, mathematical precision, and a willingness to break every rule in the submarine warfare playbook. And it won the Pacific War. Act 1. The weapon that didn't work. December 7th, 1941. Pearl Harbor burns. Within hours, Admiral Harold Stark, Chief of Naval Operations, sends an 8-word order to every submarine commander in the Pacific. Execute against Japan unrestricted air and submarine war. Unrestricted submarine warfare. The same tactic that brought America into the First World War when German U-boats sank American merchant ships. Now, with Pearl Harbor smoldering, the gloves are off. American submarines will sink everything Japanese, military or civilian, armed or unarmed. No warnings, no mercy. The submarine force is ready, or so they believe. The United States Navy possesses the finest submarines in the world. The new fleet boats, Gato class and Tambor class, are marvels of engineering. 300 feet long, 75 men per boat, 10 torpedo tubes, 6 forward, 4 aft, range of 11,000 miles. They can patrol for 60 days without refueling. They're fast on the surface, 17 knots, and they can dive to 400 feet. And they're armed with the Mark 14 torpedo, the Navy's pride, 20 feet long, 500 pounds of Torpex explosive, range of 4,500 yards at 46 knots. The Mark 14 has a secret weapon, the Mark 6 magnetic influence exploder. Instead of striking a ship's armoured hull, the torpedo is designed to pass beneath the target and detonate under the keel. The magnetic field of the ship's steel hull triggers the exploder. The underwater explosion breaks the ship's back. 1 torpedo, one kill. That's the theory. On December 14th, 1941, 1 week after Pearl Harbor, USS Seawolf encounters a Japanese freighter in Philippine waters. Lieutenant Commander Frederick Warder orders a spread of 4 Mark 14 torpedoes. Range, 1,000 yards. Angle, perfect. The crew hears detonations, but the freighter steams on, untouched. Warder fires more torpedoes. 8 shots total, 0 hits. He switches to older Mark 10 torpedoes. The first one explodes against the transport's stern. The second one sinks her. Warder files an angry report. His Mark 14s are defective. His superiors dismiss the complaint. Crew error. Poor tactics. The torpedoes are fine, but the complaints keep coming. USS Sargo reports torpedoes exploding prematurely, detonating 50 yards before reaching the target. USS Skipjack fires torpedoes that run deep, passing harmlessly beneath Japanese hulls. USS Trigger reports torpedoes that hit perfectly but fail to explode. By mid-1942, American submarines have fired over 800 torpedoes. 80% have failed. 80%. And the Bureau of Ordnance, the Navy department responsible for weapons development, insists there is nothing wrong. The problem, they claim, is the submarine commanders. Poor training, faulty tactics, operator error. Rear Admiral Charles Lockwood doesn't buy it. Lockwood is commander of submarines in the Southwest Pacific, based in Fremantle, Australia. He's a career submariner, tough, pragmatic, and he listens to his commanders. In June 1942, against direct orders from the Bureau of Ordnance, Lockwood conducts his own tests. At Frenchman Bay in Western Australia, USS Skipjack fires a torpedo through a submerged net. The torpedo is set to run at 10 feet depth. It tears through the net at 25 feet, 15 feet too deep. Lockwood runs more tests. Every torpedo runs at least 10 feet deeper than its depth setting. The explanation is simple. The Mark 14 was tested with dummy practice heads, which are lighter than actual warheads. When loaded with real explosives, the torpedo's nose-heavy weight distribution causes it to dive. The Bureau of Ordnance finally admits the problem, but fixing it is agonizingly slow. Throughout 1942 and into 1943, submarine commanders manually adjust their depth settings, aiming shallower to compensate. But even with depth problems solved, the torpedoes still fail. The magnetic influence exploder is next. The Mark 6 exploder is supposed to detonate when it senses a ship's magnetic field, but the Earth's magnetic field varies wildly across the Pacific. The exploder was tested only off Newport, Rhode Island. In the tropical waters near the equator, the magnetic variance is completely different. Torpedoes detonate prematurely or not at all. By mid-1943, Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, orders the magnetic influence exploder deactivated. Use contact detonation only. The torpedo must physically strike the target to explode. But even that doesn't work, because the Mark 14 has a third fatal flaw. The contact exploder uses a firing pin to strike a detonator. When the torpedo hits at a perpendicular 90-degree angle, the impact drives the firing pin forward too hard. It crushes its own firing mechanism before it can trigger the detonator. The harder the hit, the less likely it explodes. Commander Daspit's experience on the Tinosa is the final proof. 15 torpedoes, 11 perfect hits, 2 explosions. The torpedo works best when it barely grazes the target. It fails when it scores a direct hit. The solution comes from an unexpected source. At Pearl Harbor, engineers examined debris from Japanese aircraft shot down during the Pearl Harbor attack. The propeller blades are made from a lightweight aluminum alloy, perfect for machining a new, lighter firing pin. By September 1943, the Pacific Submarine Force finally has a reliable torpedo. 21 months into the war. 21 months of submarines prowling the Pacific with weapons that don't work. Thousands of missed opportunities. Hundreds of Japanese ships that should have been sunk, still sailing. But now, with functioning torpedoes, American submariners are about to unleash devastation on an unprecedented scale. And they're going to do it using a firing technique that seems, on its face, completely insane. 2. The machine that thinks. Here's the fundamental problem of submarine warfare. A torpedo travels at 46 knots. A Japanese cargo ship steams at 12 knots. The submarine must fire at where the target will be, not where it is. This is called calculating a firing solution, and before World War II, it was done by hand. The submarine commander uses a periscope to estimate target bearing, range, speed, and course. He feeds these estimates to a fire control officer, who uses a circular slide rule called the ISWAS, or a device nicknamed the banjo because of its shape. The fire control officer calculates where the target will be when the torpedo arrives. He determines the angle the torpedo must travel. The submarine commander then physically points his entire boat toward that intercept point and fires. It's slow, it's inaccurate, and it requires the submarine to maintain a steady course during the attack, making it vulnerable to escorts and depth charges. In 1932, the Bureau of Ordnance contracted with Armour Corporation and Ford Instruments to develop something revolutionary. An analog computer that could calculate firing solutions automatically and continuously. By 1938, they had it. The Torpedo Data Computer, the TDC. The TDC is a mechanical marvel. 30 cubic feet of gears, shafts, and differentials crammed into the submarine's conning tower. It looks like the interior of a clock built by someone who'd lost their mind. Hundreds of precision-machined components working in concert. The TDC takes inputs from the submarine's gyro compass and speed log. It receives target bearing, range, speed, and course from the periscope, radar, and sonar. It knows torpedo type and speed. And from all this data, it calculates one critical number: torpedo gyro angle. The gyro angle is the initial course setting for the torpedo. Because modern torpedoes have internal gyroscopes, they don't need to travel in the same direction as the submarine. Set the gyro angle, and the torpedo, once launched, will turn to the correct intercept course. This is transformative. The submarine commander no longer needs to point his entire boat at the target. He can fire from any angle. He can maneuver during the attack, evading escorts while maintaining accurate fire. He can even fire torpedoes while the target is temporarily obscured by smoke or rain. But the TDC's greatest advantage is its position keeper. The TDC doesn't just calculate a single firing solution. It tracks the target continuously. As the submarine moves, as the target moves, the TDC updates the solution in real time. The torpedo gyro angles are automatically adjusted, even while the torpedoes are still in their tubes waiting to be fired. No other navy in World War II has this capability. The German U-boat fire control system calculates a single snapshot solution for a fixed moment in time. The Japanese system is similar. Only the American TDC tracks targets continuously. This gives American submarines a tactical flexibility that is unmatched, and it enables a firing technique that will redefine submarine warfare. Firing ahead of the convoy. Act 3. The theory of getting closer. Traditional submarine doctrine is simple. Observe the target. Calculate where it will be. Get ahead of it. Submerge. Wait. Fire when it enters your firing zone. Then dive deep and run. But this approach has severe limitations. If the target changes course, you miss. If your speed estimate is wrong, you miss. If escorts force you deep before you can fire, you miss. And once you fire, you're committed. You must dive immediately to evade counterattack. You get one chance. Lieutenant Commander Dudley Morton, skipper of USS WWII, has a different idea. Morton is a wrestler. He competed at the Naval Academy, and he thinks about submarine warfare the way he thinks about wrestling. Get close. Grapple. Don't let go until your opponent is finished. In January 1943, WWII departs Pearl Harbor for her third war patrol. Morton tells his crew his philosophy. We will attack on the surface whenever possible. We will close to point-blank range. We will fire multiple spreads. We will stay with the target until it sinks. His executive officer thinks he's insane. Attacking on the surface means the submarine is visible. It can be rammed. It can be depth-charged. Every manual, every tactical doctrine, every instructor at submarine school says, attack submerged, fire from maximum range, dive immediately. Morton ignores all of it. On January 24th, WWII encounters a 4-ship Japanese convoy off New Guinea. Morton tracks them on the surface at night, racing ahead at 17 knots, his maximum speed. At dawn, he's ahead of the convoy. But instead of submerging and waiting, he submerges and charges toward them. He closes to 1,000 yards, point-blank range in submarine warfare. He fires a spread of 6 torpedoes. 4 hit, 2 freighters sink. He surfaces, reloads, and attacks again. By the time the patrol ends, WWII has sunk 5 ships, possibly more. It's the most successful patrol to date. Morton's aggressive tactics become legendary. Other commanders start emulating him. Get close, stay aggressive, fire ahead of the target's track, and let them run into your torpedoes. But there's a problem. Firing ahead means calculating the target's future position with extreme precision. A slight error in target speed? Miss. A degree off in target course? Miss. The target zigs instead of zags? Miss. You're not firing at where the enemy is. You're firing at where the enemy will be in 2 to 3 minutes. You're trying to hit a moving target by shooting at empty ocean and hoping your math is right. This is where the torpedo data computer becomes essential. The math of murder. Imagine you're standing on a dock. A boat is passing by at 10 knots. You want to throw a baseball to someone on that boat, but your baseball will travel at 20 knots. Where do you aim? Not at the person, at where they will be when the ball arrives. That's called leading the target. Submarine torpedo firing is the same principle, except the submarine is also moving, and the target might turn, and you can't see very well. And if you miss, destroyers will try to sink you. The TDC solves this problem continuously. Here's how it works. The submarine's periscope identifies a target. Range, 4,000 yards. Bearing, 30 degrees. The periscope operator feeds this data into the TDC. 3 minutes later, another observation. Range, 3,800 yards. Bearing, 32 degrees. The TDC's position keeper uses these observations to calculate target course and speed. It predicts where the target is now, even though the submarine can't see it. Meanwhile, the submarine is maneuvering. The TDC knows the submarine's course and speed from the gyro compass and log. It calculates the target's position relative to the submarine's position. It knows the torpedo's speed. It calculates the intercept point. Then it calculates the torpedo gyro angle required to hit that intercept point, and it does this every second, continuously, automatically. The fire control officer watches the TDC's dials. When the calculated solution matches the observed solution, when the predicted target position aligns with the actual periscope observations, he knows the solution is accurate. He tells the captain, "Solution ready." The captain doesn't need to aim the submarine, he just fires. The torpedoes, set with the correct gyro angles, leap from their tubes, travel 100 yards on the submarine's course, then turn to their intercept headings. The target, hundreds of yards away, steaming across the ocean, never knowing that 6 torpedoes are converging on it from an angle it can't see. This is firing ahead, and when it works, it's devastatingly effective. The Codebreaker's Gift. Early 1943. Station Hypo, Pearl Harbor. Deep in a basement beneath the Pacific Fleet headquarters, Navy cryptanalysts are achieving something remarkable. They've broken the Japanese merchant shipping code, the Maru Code, named after the suffix that appears on virtually every Japanese merchant vessel's name. Every day at noon, Japanese merchant ships transmit their position reports. At 800 hours and 2000 hours, convoy commanders report their routes, speeds, and destinations, all encrypted, all transmitted by radio, all intercepted by American listening stations scattered across the Pacific, and now all decipherable. The codebreakers pass this intelligence to submarine commanders in real time. A convoy departs Shanghai, bound for Manila. The decrypt includes ship names, cargo manifests, departure time, route, and estimated arrival. An American submarine commander receives the message while on patrol. He doesn't need to search. He doesn't need luck. He plots the convoy's course, calculates the intercept point, and positions his submarine exactly where the convoy will be in 2 days. The Japanese have no idea their communications are compromised. They continue broadcasting positions, routes, and schedules. For American submariners, it's like reading the enemy's playbook before the game. Lieutenant Commander John Coy, skipper of USS Silversides, receives a decrypt on January 17, 1943. The message is precise. The 10,000-ton tanker Toei Maru will reach truck at 0010 hours on January 18th. Koei positions Silversides along the predicted track. At 0255 hours, Toei Maru appears exactly where the codebreakers said it would be. Toei fires 4 stern torpedoes. All 4 hit. The tanker sinks in minutes. This combination, reliable torpedoes plus accurate intelligence plus the torpedo data computer, transforms American submarines from frustrated hunters into efficient killers. But they still need to get close, and getting close requires a tactic that seems suicidal. Act 6. The surface attack. Traditional doctrine says submarines attack submerged, safer that way. The submarine is invisible beneath the waves. But submerged attacks have severe disadvantages. Speed. A submerged submarine moves at 7 knots, maximum. On the surface, 17 knots. If a convoy steams at 12 knots and changes course away from you, a submerged submarine cannot catch it. You get 1 shot, maybe 2. Then the convoy is gone. Visibility. A periscope provides a narrow, restricted view. Range estimation is difficult. In rough seas, the periscope is nearly useless. Surface attacks solve both problems. The submarine runs at full speed on the surface, using radar to track targets from 10 miles away. The captain and lookouts on the bridge have 360-degree visibility. They can see escorts, multiple targets, weather conditions. They can maneuver aggressively, selecting the best firing position. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. And here's the critical advantage: persistence. On the surface, the submarine can shadow a convoy for hours or even days. Wait for darkness. Wait for the escorts to be on the wrong side of the formation. Wait for the perfect setup. Then attack, multiple times if necessary. This is Dudley Morton's philosophy made doctrine. By mid-1943, most successful submarine commanders are conducting surface attacks at night. USS Tang, commanded by Richard O'Kane, Morton's former executive officer, becomes the master of the surface night attack. February 22, 1944. Tang encounters a convoy of 3 cargo ships and 2 escorts. O'Kane tracks them through rain squalls for 30 minutes. Radar is nearly useless in the weather. He closes to 1,500 yards on the surface, aiming by eye. He fires 6 torpedoes, 3 hit. The lead freighter, Jyoten Maru, 6,800 tons, sinks stern first. The convoy scatters. Aircraft appear. Tang dives, evades, surfaces, and chases the remaining ships. The aggressive surface attack becomes standard. But the Japanese are adapting. By 1944, their escort commanders understand American tactics. They know submarines attack on the surface at night. They've equipped their escorts with radar. They've trained lookouts to spot the low profile of a surfaced submarine in darkness. And they've started fighting back more effectively. The waters are getting more dangerous. American submarines need every advantage. Which brings us back to the firing solution. The technique that maximizes hit probability while minimizing exposure time, firing ahead of the convoy's track. Act 7. The geometry of death. Here's the tactical problem. A submarine spots a convoy, 4 cargo ships, 2 escorts. The convoy is steaming at 10 knots on a steady course. The submarine commander wants to sink as many ships as possible with a single salvo. Where does he fire? Option 1. Beam, shot. Fire when the target is perpendicular to the submarine, 90 degrees off the bow. This is the traditional shot. The target presents the largest profile, easiest to hit. But the geometry is terrible for multiple targets. The ships are spread out in a line. Your torpedoes hit one ship, maybe 2. The others are too far away. Option 2. Stern shot. Fire at the convoy from behind. You're chasing them. The range closes slowly. You have time to set up, but stern shots require large torpedo gyro angles. The torpedo must turn sharply after launch. This increases the chance of malfunction, and if you miss, you've wasted minutes of precious attack time. The convoy is pulling away. Option 3. Bow shot, firing ahead. Position your submarine ahead of the convoy's track. Calculate where each ship will be in 2 minutes. Fire a spread of torpedoes into that empty water. Wait. The convoy steams directly into your torpedo spread. The advantages are extraordinary. All targets are converging toward a single point. You can hit multiple ships with one salvo. Your torpedoes travel the shortest possible distance, increasing accuracy. The torpedo gyro angles are small, reducing mechanical stress, and once you fire, you can immediately dive or turn away. You're not committed to holding position, but the mathematics are brutal. You're firing at empty ocean. If your target speed estimate is off by 1 knot, your torpedoes arrive too early or too late. If the target's course is wrong by 2 degrees, your torpedoes pass ahead or astern. If the target zigs, you miss completely. This is where the TDC earns its reputation. The computer tracks the target for 15 to 20 minutes, taking multiple observations, refining its solution. By the time the captain orders fire, the TDC has calculated target course and speed with remarkable precision. The error margin is minimal. The torpedoes are precisely aimed at a future point in the ocean. The submariners call it firing into the pocket. You're putting your torpedoes where the enemy will be, and if you've done the math right, they run directly into them. Act 8. The Wolf Among Sheep, July 31st, 1944. Philippine Sea. Lieutenant Commander Lawson Red Ramage is hunting. USS Parsh has been shadowing a Japanese convoy for hours. 7 merchant ships, multiple escorts. They're steaming in 2 columns, 4 ships in one line, 3 in the other. Ramage plans a classic ahead shot. Position Parsh ahead of the convoy's track, fire a spread into their path, dive and evade. But as Parche maneuvers into position, the convoy turns, directly toward him. Suddenly, Ramage isn't ahead of the convoy. He's in the middle of it. The normal response is to dive, immediately. A submarine caught on the surface between merchant ships and escorts is in mortal danger. But Ramage makes a different decision. He orders full speed ahead, directly into the convoy formation. What happens next will become known as Ramage's Rampage. It's 3:56 a.m. Parche is running on the surface between 2 columns of merchant ships. Escorts are on, either side, outside the columns. Ramage fires 2 torpedoes at a freighter. They miss. The ship alters course. He fires a 3rd torpedo. It hits. The freighter explodes. Japanese crew's fire flares into the sky. Searchlights sweep across the water. Machine guns rattle. Ramage cranks Parsh hard to starboard to avoid ramming a cargo ship. He steadies on a new course, aims, and fires 4 bow torpedoes at an oil tanker. All 4 hit. The tanker erupts in flames. Now the convoy is in chaos. Ships are turning, trying to evade. Escorts are racing in. Depth charges ready. And Ramage is still on the surface, still attacking. He swings Parsh through a hard turn, fires stern torpedoes. 2 hits, another ship burning. He reloads the bow tubes while maneuvering at flank speed, weaving between merchant ships like a wolf among sheep. For 40 minutes, Parsh remains on the surface, surrounded by enemy ships. Ramage fires 19 torpedoes. 5 ships are sunk or heavily damaged. Finally, with escorts closing in, he dives. Depth charges explode around Parch as she slips beneath the waves. But the damage is done. The convoy is shattered. Ramage will receive the Medal of Honor. But Ramage's rampage, spectacular as it is, represents the exception. Most commanders don't want to be caught in the middle of a convoy. They want to attack from ahead, fire their torpedoes, and get out before the escorts arrive. And by 1944, they're doing exactly that with devastating efficiency. Act 9. The Noose tightens. 1944. The mathematics of Japan's war effort are collapsing. Japan is an island nation that imports everything. Oil from the Dutch East Indies, rubber from Indochina, rice from Southeast Asia, iron ore from Manchuria. In 1941, Japan's merchant fleet totaled 6 million tons. By 1943, American submarines are sinking Japanese merchant ships faster than Japan can build replacements. The losses are staggering. 1942. 1 million tons sunk. 1943. 1.8 million tons sunk. 1944. 3.8 million tons sunk. And it's not just the ships, it's what they're carrying. On August 18, 1944, Convoy HI-71 departs Moji, Japan, bound for Manila. 17 merchant ships, 3 destroyers, 9 corvettes, 1 escort carrier with 12 aircraft. It's the most heavily defended convoy Japan has sent to sea. Aboard the transports are 2 full infantry divisions, 32,000 men, with equipment, ammunition, and supplies. The convoy is moving reinforcements to defend the Philippines. American codebreakers know the convoy is coming. They know the route. They know the schedule. 2 submarine wolf packs are waiting. Donk's Devils, commanded by Glyn Donohoe. USS Spadefish, USS Redfish, and USS Pikuda. And a second group, USS Rasher, USS Bluefish, and USS Rayton. August 18th, 2200 hours. The convoy enters. The Luzon Strait. USS Redfish fires 6 torpedoes. 3 hit the escort carrier Tayo. She sinks with 850 crewmen. 3 hours later, USS Rasher attacks. 4 torpedoes slam into the transport Eishin Maru. The ship is carrying ammunition. The detonation is visible for miles, a column of fire reaching into the night sky. The pressure wave sweeps across Rasher's bridge. Eishin Maru vanishes. 2 more transports sink before dawn. Over the next 4 days, the wolf packs hunt the scattered convoy. USS Spadefish torpedoes the escort carrier Shinyo. 1,100 crewmen die in the fires. USS Harder sinks 2 corvettes. USS Haddo torpedoes a destroyer. By the time the remnants of Convoy HI-71 limp into Manila, 5 major warships are gone. 8 transports sunk. Over 8,000 Japanese soldiers drowned. The equipment for 2 divisions lost. The survivors reach Manila without vehicles, without artillery, without heavy weapons. The impact is strategic. Japan's high command realizes they can no longer move large formations by sea. They pull back their defensive perimeter by 600 miles. The Philippines, the Marianas, the Carolines, all these garrisons are now cut off, unable to receive reinforcements or supplies. They will fight with what they have, and when that runs out, they will die. This is the reality of 1944. American submarines, with reliable torpedoes and accurate intelligence, are strangling Japan. Act 10. The human cost. For every merchant ship sunk, there are men drowning. Not just Japanese sailors, but soldiers. Thousands of them. The Japanese call these vessels transport ships. The Allies call them troop ships, and American submarines sink them without hesitation. July 31st, 1944. USS Steelhead fires torpedoes into a convoy. One hits the transport Fuso Maru, 4,500 troops aboard. The ship goes down so fast that 1,376 soldiers drown before they can abandon ship. The same day, USS Rasher torpedoes Yoshino Maru, 5,012 soldiers aboard, 2,482 die. August 19th, USS Spadefish sinks Tamatsu Maru, 4,541 soldiers and merchant crew aboard. The ship capsizes in minutes. Nearly everyone drowns. These aren't aberrations, they're the norm. Allied submarines sink an estimated 44 Japanese troopships carrying more than 1,000 casualties. In 33 of these attacks, the loss of life exceeds 1,000 men per ship. Total casualties: approximately 79,000 Japanese soldiers killed at sea by American submarines, more than the U.S. Marine Corps killed in the entire Central Pacific campaign from Tarawa to Iwo Jima. The numbers are staggering, but they're also strategic. Every soldier drowned is a soldier who can't reinforce a garrison. Every tank lost at sea is a tank that won't defend a beach. Every artillery piece sunk is one less gun, firing at American Marines. The submarine campaign isn't just sinking ships, it's destroying Japan's ability to defend its empire. And there's another cost. Hidden. The Hell ships, Japanese transports carrying Allied prisoners of war and Asian slave laborers. The submarines don't know who's aboard. The Japanese don't mark the ships. The Red Cross isn't notified. The POWs are locked in cargo holds, hundreds of men packed into spaces designed for freight. When a torpedo hits, there's no time to evacuate. The holds flood in minutes. USS Grunion sinks a transport off Sumatra. 700 Allied POWs drown. USS Sturgeon torpedoes a freighter in the South China Sea. Over 1,500 POWs and civilian laborers die. It's estimated that 10,800 Allied prisoners of war died at sea during the Pacific War, most killed by American or Allied submarines. The submarine commanders don't learn this until after the war. The psychological toll is immense. They saved thousands of Allied lives by cutting Japan's supply lines, but they also killed thousands of Allied prisoners they never knew were there. It's the nightmare paradox of unrestricted submarine warfare. Act 11, the final statistics. By August 1945, when Japan surrenders, the numbers tell the story. American submarines sank approximately 1,300 Japanese merchant ships, 4.8 million tons. That's 55% of all Japanese merchant losses. More than aircraft, more than mines, more than surface ships. Submarines alone destroyed more than half of Japan's merchant fleet. They also sank approximately 200 warships, including the aircraft carrier Shinano, the largest warship ever sunk by a submarine. The battleship Congo, the only Japanese battleship lost to submarine attack. 8 aircraft carriers total, 11 cruisers, over 130 destroyers and escorts. The cost to the submarine force is proportionally high. American submarines lost, 3,500 submariners killed. That's 22% of all personnel who served, the highest casualty rate of any branch of the US military, but the strategic impact is undeniable. By 1945, Japan has less than 25% of the merchant tonnage it had in 1941. The home islands are starving, fuel is critically short, factories are idle, because raw materials can't be imported. The Japanese economy is in collapse, not because of bombing, not because of island invasions, because American submarines severed the maritime supply lines that kept the empire alive, and the technique that made it possible? Firing ahead. Using the torpedo data computer to calculate precise intercept points, positioning the submarine ahead of the convoy's track, firing torpedoes into empty water and letting the enemy run into them. It sounds simple when described. It required nerves of steel to execute. Commanders had to trust their mathematics, trust the TDC's calculations, fire at targets they couldn't always see, at points in the ocean where nothing existed yet, and wait, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, watching through the periscope as their torpedoes ran toward empty sea, hoping the math was right, hoping the convoy didn't zig, hoping the torpedoes worked. When it failed, they'd wasted torpedoes and alerted the escorts. When it succeeded, multiple ships sank from a single salvo. The Japanese never developed an effective counter. They tried larger escorts. They tried zigzagging. They tried sailing only at night. Nothing worked. American submarines, equipped with radar, code intelligence, reliable torpedoes, and the torpedo data computer, could find them anywhere, anytime. And once found, the firing solution was almost always the same. Get ahead, calculate where they'll be, fire into the pocket, and wait for the mathematics to do their work. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.